Hey, welcome to the Orange Mailbox. I'm Lamar, along with my brother and host Logan. We have a special guest in studio today, Jeff Adamson. He is the coach of the Eastbrook Panther football team. Jeff, welcome to the show.
What an honor. I'm excited to be here.
We're excited to have you.
Yes.
So let's just go over a little bit of some stats from your time at Eastbrook. You've been coaching there for 31 years, so you started in 1988.
Somewhere around there.
Yeah, that's when I graduated high school. You have a 280 and 89 overall record. That's a 76% winning percentage. You have a 68 and 35 tournament record, which is a 66% winning percentage. You have 8 undefeated regular seasons. Joined the CIC in 98, right?
Somewhere. Yeah. I'm not great with dates, so I'm going to agree with everything you say.
Okay. You have 14 CIC titles shared or outright, 15 sectional titles. 2 of those are in Class 3A. We are Class 2A right now. 7 regional titles and 4 semi-state titles. We don't have the elusive state title yet.
It will happen.
It will happen. I believe that. But just looking at these stats here, there's hundreds of coaches throughout the state that would just die to have this kind of a program. And it's quite awesome what you've accomplished there. And to top it all off, the stadium is now called Jeff Adamson Stadium. Normally that happens after you're gone or you're in the ground.
Yeah, just to be clear, I don't have any intention of dying, number one, or I know that will happen at some point. I'm not in a hurry for that, and I don't want to retire. Got a lot of bills. I got to work for a while. But,
well, you're also administrator at the high school, right? Assistant principal. Yeah. So you burn the candle at both ends quite often. It's
a great place. It really is. I think when you think when you were mentioning those. The one thing I really think back on is, when we started, Eastbrook at that point really didn't have a great tradition of winning. And we talk about this in the coaching office quite a bit, how much things have really changed. And a lot of these conversations are with Harold Coates because he would have been playing, at the time when things really started to turn.
And Harold is... What's his position on the coaching staff?
Well, he's got a lot of positions. That could be a whole nother interview here.
He's a quarterback coach.
He's the scout team coordinator, the scout team quarterback. In all seriousness, Harold probably knows the offense as well as anyone else, even though it's a lot different than the offense we ran while he was there. But He's great. We just have these discussions all the time about how funny it is because remember he was quarterback when we won our first sectional, and the excitement that we had when we won was just hard to describe because we felt like we'd climbed an incredible mountain. It was just unbelievable. We didn't know how to act. We didn't know what the procedures were. We were all running in the locker room, and Don Deemer, the principal, then had to call everybody back to accept the trophy. We didn't know. And the school was excited the next day. There was a big pep rally, and it was really spontaneous. And, you fast forward to this year, we'd won our sectional over at Eastern, and Greg Kyle was our, new AD, and he was just had that same kind of excitement, and we're just all calm and more business-like, and we're telling them this is just one step. We're ready because you don't understand. I've coached football for 20 years. I was never a part of this.
Yeah.
And kind of keeps things in perspective, I think.
I would say after 15 sectional titles, it'd be just commonplace now in this community. It's expected.
I think it is in a good sense of that, but I think it also, I think among the team, the players, and even the coaches, it's a step, it's an accomplishment, but you also, you're not content at that point. You want to, you feel like you're getting prepared for the next step.
Right.
You got a regional to prepare for. You want to celebrate that moment, and on the bus ride home, or even when you go in the coach's office, if it's a home game, we're already trying to find tape on our next opponent and get things ready.
Yep. I did have a chance to talk to Mr. Kyle, and like you said, he had never been part of any sectional championship, anything. And he was in awe, really. He was awestruck at the whole atmosphere.
he's had a big fall. Boys and girls soccer both had a great year, and then football, we had a run to the state finals. He was burning the candle, man. There was that weekend of Thanksgiving. Sometimes it's easier to watch film out at the school, and I was spending a lot of hours out there just trying to get things ready, and he was out there the whole time, just getting all the paperwork ready, and all the things you have to do to play at Lucas Oil it's almost absurd. It really is, but he did a tremendous job taking care of all that stuff that you don't want to do because it has nothing to do with game planning,
right?
And it still has to be done, but he did a great job with that stuff.
Now, did you play high school football in this area?
Yeah, I played at Eastbrook. Bob Cornell was coach at that time, and still have great friends, from that time period that played with, still in connection with a lot of them.
What position did you play?
Well, I was really good. No, I was not. Played receiver and defensive back. We had at that time the playoffs were quite a bit different. You had to qualify for the playoffs, and we had two really good. My junior year and senior year, we had two really good teams that didn't qualify, even though we only had one loss my junior year and two losses senior year. We didn't qualify for the playoffs. I remember that as being very disappointing, but we'd won our conference, the old MIC, both of those years, and that was really neat. Bob Cornell was just a tremendous man. He had a great influence on me as a person individually, but definitely a big influence on how I coach and some of the things try to do, leading the program. He was a great reflection on what a coach should be, I think.
Where did you go on to go to college? And
went to Manchester College, Harvard of the Midwest. Did not go there for academic purposes. Went there primarily for football. Actually, it was kind of a last-minute decision. I originally was going to go to Ball State. Had a small journalism scholarship. I was really excited about it. And at the last minute, actually, I remember it was at the very end of the year. Bob Cornell left Eastbrook to go to Manchester. And he asked if I'd come down for a visit, and school was already out. And I went down to visit with a couple other guys that were at Eastbrook. Joe Marley was their quarterback, and Rick Feitz was an offensive lineman. And we went and visited. I loved the campus. I liked the smaller campus, and I really obviously the big turning point was just him. I never would have visited Manchester even without him, but I really wanted the thought of being able to play some more football. Rick Feitz ended up going there. Joe Marley didn't. It was a great experience. Loved it there.
And you were a star on the football team.
I was not. I was not. Played. I thought I was going to go play defensive back. I walked in. It was just different than the way things are now. You didn't have guys that would stay on campus over the summer and that kind of thing. Everybody showed up maybe that second week of August, and it was obvious that nobody knew anyone else there. I mean, even the returning players, there was probably only about 30 or 40 guys that were returning, and the rest were all incoming freshmen. There was probably 70 incoming guys that, they had all recruited. And I went over to get a black jersey for defense, and Cornell said, no, you need to come over here. And
he give you the water bottles to start carrying around?
The water tray. It was it was a great experience. It really was. And I still have a lot of guys that I played football with at Manchester that I stay in contact with all the time. Got a lot of texts from those guys when we're in state finals and that kind of thing. But
it's a brotherhood, isn't it?
It really is. I mean, you know that with Chandler, just how tight guys get when you kind of go through the common suffering together, I guess. But
Chandler's my son, by the way.
Good old Chandler.
For all our listeners
Number
out there.
9. But it was really good. We weren't very good the first year there. A lot of young guys in the junior and senior year there. We were pretty good. We were competing. We did not win the conference championship. We had two really good teams, Findlay and Wilmington, that have both moved up out of Division III, but they were incredible programs at that time. I think my favorite story, we had my first game as in college, we got behind early. We had to throw, so you individually get a lot of passes, and it was a lot different than high school.
Mm-hmm.
And got some kind of honor. I don't remember. It was like Conference Player of the Week or something. I don't know what that was. And the next week we played Findlay, and now I'm really thinking I'm pretty good. We go first play of the game, line up, and there's a giant linebacker over the top of me covering, and I thought, God, this is going to be easy. I mean, this guy, I'm quicker than him. Took 2 steps off the line of scrimmage, and I was knocked completely out. I mean, not off the field. I mean, I was knocked out. And
another time zone.
That's when I realized college was going to be a lot different. That was the last thing I remembered from that night.
That's funny. So you said this Bob Cornell.
Yeah.
You looked up a lot to Bob. Was he probably one of your main mentors, or I know you kind of mentioned him in that light, but who motivated you? Where did you draw from these, other than Bob? Was there anybody else that really motivated you to personally and on the field?
Yeah, without a doubt. Just coattailing on that, I think Bob Cornell was a terrific man, first of all. When he came into Eastbrook, and this would have been, gosh, I don't know, late 70s, and he had adopted, I think he had 4 black kids, had a really large family. They were really involved in the community, and Eastbrook is not always the area of cultural diversity. I mean, what a great example. Not just in the way he was with his family, but the way he was with his community, the way he treated players on the team, and so much more than just football, all the time. And another guy that we had at Eastbrook that had a big influence on me was Tim Sumner, and he just passed away this week, found out. He was our baseball coach, left Eastbrook, went to Mississippi State, had a tremendous career coaching baseball there. Coach Rafael Palmero, Will Clark, some great guys there. Actually had a chance. It was a big turning point for me personally. After I left Manchester, I was set up to take a graduate assistantship at Mississippi State. Really excited about it. I'd gone down there and met all the people I needed to meet. And it was about 2 weeks before I was supposed to go. We'd already had a going away party. It was packed. I had stuff in boxes. And I was working down at the grocery store here in Upland. Dave Martz came in, and I'm carrying his groceries out, and he said, "Hey, we just had a opening. Jim Etherington just left. You teach social studies. We've got football, basketball, baseball open." And thought, wow, what a great opportunity. I squirmed for a few days on what to do, and decided to take that. But the other great influence was my dad. My dad and I coached Little League Baseball together. We coached flag football together, always coached. This was while I was in high school. And even when I was in college, we came back and we always coached a baseball team together. And we strategized for hours over, who we were going to draft, where we were going to play guys. And Dad was always a guy, every high school game, every college game. My mom and dad never missed a game in any of that time. They never missed a game that I coached in even.
Mm-hmm.
Even now, Dad comes over usually on Saturday, or at least seems Sunday at church, and we have a little bit of rehash of the game and try to. I don't know how much strategy we talk as much anymore. Talk more about the personalities of some of the guys and what they can do. And, I really enjoy that. That's time well spent for me.
So kind of piggybacking what you were talking about before about your personal life, coaching. So you're an administrator at the high school, head football coach for 31 years. How do you maintain your sanity with what you have to deal with? You're dealing with kids year-round pretty much.
Yeah.
And then you got your spouse, your wife. I mean, not saying that's a bad thing, but you've got a lot of stuff on your plate. I mean, how do you...
Well, you hit on the big thing there, and Candy well enough to know this. You cannot be as involved. There's no way you can be a successful coach without having an understanding wife. And Candy she's coach of the year as far as wives go. Phenomenal. She's very supportive, She understands, just as an example, for the past 2 years, me and some of the coaches have taken spring break, and we've gone down to we're going out to West Point and try to study some football, and she's fine with that. But she's great about that. She understands it's going to take a lot of work, and during the season, she takes care of the other things that need to be done. When you're up watching game film and that kind of stuff. She's just phenomenal with that kind of stuff. But
it's obvious she's a huge supporter because I see her at every game.
Yeah. And
after the game, she's out on the field and she's waiting for you.
Yeah. So we've done that. She's only missed a few games. She's had to miss a couple times she sat through a few games with some kidney stones. She's been tough about that. She missed a couple games a few years ago after one of the hurricanes down south. She was on a team that went down and did some service down there. She's a nurse, so she provided some medical care down there through that. But she's just phenomenal with all that stuff, and she loves it. She always gets that question: "Are you glad football's over?" She's yes, but never when that happens too early. When it happens first or second round of the sectional.
But it's never truly over.
Yeah, she would admit to that. Yeah.
Now, she sat through a game with a kidney stone. She is tough, and she is dedicated. I'll tell you that. My God.
She acts like those are really painful. I've never had one of those. But
you don't want one.
We've had them.
She's complained about that a little bit.
That's what childbirth feels like.
I've heard that.
Oh, buddy. So when you have the all this going on during the year, and what do you do to unwind and kind of pull back from all that intensity through the year, especially when you start getting into the tournament time and just a lot of intensity that nobody really knows about? So what do you do to get some relief from all that and all the time? I know I heard you're a music buff and a history buff. You like music and you're a big history buff. I didn't know if any of that would play into it or not, but what do you do to pull back and
yeah, when the season's over, first I'd say, you asked about, how do you balance the administration, that kind of thing. For me, the football is that relief. I mean, the worst day that you could possibly have inside the school, you can leave that in the building when you get to walk out on the field and be around that group of guys. So that's the relief there. But I like to read. I love to, we go to Nashville once or twice a year, maybe go listen to some good bluegrass music. I love to listen to the Harness family whenever they get together and play. But I think the balance comes just trying to just getting to spend time with my family. I mean, we don't have to go anywhere or do anything necessarily. I think we spend a lot of time just there at the house. Either sitting out at a fire out at the pond, or just we got a great group of friends. All of the football coaches, that's my group of best friends, and so even outside of football, we do things with them and their wives, and obviously now that we've got a granddaughter, any time that you spend with her is incredibly precious time. And was it 2 years ago we had lost in a semi-state with about 1.8 seconds left, if I remember that vision of the clock being burned into my mind. But
that would be against Woodland.
Yeah, that was that was a tough night. And my daughter and my son-in-law brought Nora down, and that next morning, and kept me from committing suicide that next morning. And I just held her for a little while, and felt like the world was going to be all right, But I think, I in all seriousness, I think you have to strike some kind of balance. But during the season, I don't know how to describe this well. You immediately after a game, you start thinking of the next one. You've got preparation, you've got film to watch, you've got things to get ready, and it just keeps rolling over and over until you get into the playoffs. And then wherever that last game falls, if it's after the first round of the sectional or even if it's in the state finals, that last game is it. And it ends so abruptly. It's just it's difficult to explain. And you spent all these weeks with these guys together, and you're fighting for a common cause, and all of a sudden it's over. And
well, especially the seniors, because you're like a father figure to them, like you said, and it ends abruptly. their career's over in high school football. That's it.
Yeah.
And they're standing around, they're hugging each other, crying, whatever, and you're the person they look to.
That part is, I can't express how much that tears your heart apart, because you're so appreciative of everything that group of guys has given you, not just for that year, but all the way through.
Right.
And you feel their pain, and you're going to miss them. Not just what they did on the field, but just all the silly stuff they they did during practice, whatever else, and it's hard to just move on. Like they always say, ask on the radio, well, when do you start preparing for next year? You feel almost like you're cheating on the guys that you just had to even start talking about that,
Well, the senior class this year is even more special, what they accomplished in their 4 years. 4 sectional championships, 4 regional championships, 3 semi-states. That's an unbelievable class that came up.
It really is. And I think those guys, there's so many people that have to contribute to make that happen.
Right.
I mean, it's not just the coaches, it's not just the players. It's got to, the parents have a huge role in all of that, and making sure that things are smooth.
It's a community effort, that's for sure.
It really is. And I don't think you can really understand how much that is until you're tied into it and see how all those pieces have to fit together. Any one person along that way who's being too selfish or, not happy with the role that they're playing or whatever disrupts all of that flow. And, the group that just finished their career this year, all of those things were there. I mean, they had a really good group ahead of them. They learned from that group, and they're going to leave a legacy of how well they worked with the younger guys to bring them along, because we had a lot of young guys playing this year.
I've talked to several people that have commented when they come to an Eastbrook football game. Of course, the talk is they want to go to Ivanhoe's. Everybody loves Ivanhoe's.
Sure.
Little plug for Ivanhoe's there. But I've heard several people say that it's obvious that we have community buy-in to your program, and the fan base is phenomenal. And a lot of places we travel to away games, our fan section is more packed than the home team. That says a lot. That says a lot about you. It says a lot about your staff. It says a lot about the kids playing. It's awesome to be part of it.
It is, and it's you mentioned that going to away games and things, especially when you get in the tournament. I mean that's when it becomes really, really important.
We travel well.
Yeah, the conference games are close. You're going to get in the car and be there in half an hour.
Right.
But a lot of those tournament games, you may have to go. For the last couple, going up to Whiting, that was a 2-day trip to get there.
Horrible.
Going to Rensselaer, some of those places, but to have that kind of following makes it feel like a home game. You need that. And another example, we don't have enough money in the athletic budget or enough money in some fund to buy all the guys rings. When you go to the state finals, and Greg Kyle put out a call for that. We had almost all the money that we need raised within 2 days. Just people contributing. One of the coolest things, we kind of reached out to that Eastbrook Brotherhood group that's on Facebook, and a lot of those guys made some sizable contributions to help with that.
I didn't get an invite to get a ring, though. You need my ring size?
Yeah, we do.
Logan had talked about you being a history buff, but I've noticed throughout the years, you always have these quotes, and they get the shirts and the hoodies made with these quotes on them, and you have to spend hours trying to find these quotes that you come up with, these battle cries, and my son still remembers.
Well, he had a special one.
Well, yeah.
he had one that I carry. I love to read. That was another thing. I remember being very young, and my mom and dad always read, and it was very common. At my earliest memories, I always got books for Christmas, for birthdays. I had 3 or 4 books that were about how to make paper airplanes. I had books about guys who played in the NFL. All those kind of things. But as you get older, I just continue to read, and I think history provides so many real life examples. My favorite stories to read are about the military, that kind of thing. And I think there's so many things that are applicable there. But survival stories, or stories of guys who have overcome huge obstacles to be able to get to where they are, those kind of things. And I think so many athletes in general relate to those kind of stories.
Yeah.
So I love to collect quotes. Tim Helm, our pastor at Hanfield, you're supposed to be listening to the sermon, and I am. I should get credit for that. but he often, throws something in, and I'm, scrambling, trying to write that down on the sermon notes. But I try to collect those, wherever you can.
Yeah.
Awesome. I noticed the first two games, we're going to talk about this season a little bit. The first two games of the season you lost.
It was fun.
I didn't get to attend very many games this year just for reasons, but one of the games that I did attend was the second game, and we got thumped. And I was just curious as to how you go from two losses at the beginning of the season to most people would think, well, this is going to be a mediocre year, where this will be a building year, all the things they say. But what did you tell those kids to rally them to finish out the season undefeated and then go on to play a state championship game in Indianapolis? How did you go from two losses to the state game?
Well, I think, first of all, when we played Marion, had a lot of people ask, why are you scheduling Marion? They're 4A team, they're a lot bigger school, that kind of thing. Well, schedule them because we felt like we'd beat them. I mean, we'd scrimmaged them over the years. I'm not saying that egotistically. We felt like we would be able to compete well with them. We played very hard in that game. We didn't. I don't think we played our best, but we played hard, and it was disappointing. We didn't want to lose the game, but we really felt like, at least with that game, win or lose, that was going to be a game that would help us become a better team. There are some things that maybe happen through the course of a game when you play somebody your own size, or maybe a lesser experienced team that maybe don't show up, or you get by with, might be a better way to say it. When you're playing a team like Marion, if you're not doing any phase of the game well, it shows up big, and it did in that game. But at the same time, we felt like our guys played hard enough that was going to be something we could build on, and we knew that it was going to help us. And even though we lost, I think we still had the focus of the guys, and we felt good about it. Going into that second week against Delta, it was totally different. It was totally different during the game and after the game. We felt very well prepared. Delta was a phenomenal team, and they not only beat us, but there was a point in that game somewhere towards the end of the third quarter where we quit fighting back. And I haven't seen one of our teams do that in quite a long time. And as a coach, your fear is we've lost the guys. I mean, you could take the guys out to the practice field and work their tails off when you're winning, because they know this is for a reason and there's going to be a reward afterwards.
Yep.
But after that Delta game, it's been a long time since we've had a team where we felt that their confidence was bruised that bad that we didn't know if we were going to be able to rebound or not. The only thing that we told them was those two games weren't conference games. They weren't tournament games. These are games we have to use to make us better. And a really neat thing happened. Our motto for the season was pound the stone. There's a fable about a stone carver who goes out every day and he's chipping away at this large stone. He's doing the same thing, and just one day this king walks by, and it's a magnificent carving, a magnificent structure, and the king is praising this guy. And he said it wasn't the last strike that made this, it was all the thousands before this. And we're just trying to emphasize to the guys, all these things that have happened to this point are going to help make us better. It's not where we're at right now. It's not what we do right now. It's what we keep continually doing to get better. It was important that we got that message, because after that, we were starting our conference play, and the next week we had, it was a very emotional game for me. We were honoring Tom Wilson, guy who had coached with us for a long time, passed away.
Many years, yeah.
Yeah, that summer. He'd been our defense coordinator for many years. We were playing Madison Grant. He was a Madison Grant grad, and we kind of worked with them to, make it a Tom Wilson night. And I wanted to make sure personally that our team was going to play extremely well that night. I mean, that was a personal thing for me, but I think a lot of the guys felt that as well. Our seniors had a great week of practice and really emphasized to the younger guys, we've not been playing to our standard, and we're going to get things right. And it's not anything magical. It's just we're going to go back to the basics and do things right. You think we're going to go out and yell at guys and make them run and do. It wasn't any of that, but the guys played phenomenal that third week, and we had a shutout, which is very fitting. Tom was our defensive coordinator for a long time, and it just kind of validated everything that the guys had done to that point, regardless of the first 2 weeks. It was like we're going to stay the course. We're just going to keep doing what we're doing. And the next week was even more important because that was Mississinawa, and that's the team you got to beat traditionally to win the conference. Guys played really well, and that generated a lot of momentum going in through the rest of the season, I think.
Prior to the season starting, in back of my mind anyways, I'm thinking we could start the season 1-3. I don't know the last time we started a season 1-3.
After those first two, I was thinking there's a good chance we could start 0-4. It didn't feel real good. And it's the psyche of a team and how they feel about where they are at personally and together as a team is so fragile, And like I said, after that Delta game, it didn't feel like that after the Marion game, but it felt like that after the Delta game, that guys were just questioning where they were, plays that were called, what we're doing scheme, everything. Nothing felt right. And when I say it validated things, we didn't do anything different, that week preparing for Madison Grant, but to come out and get a win, I think just kind of got everybody in the right frame of mind.
What I saw against the Mississinawa team would most definitely make Tom Wilson proud, because the defensive effort in that game was phenomenal, and in my opinion, that was a turning point, and the rest of the season, as we know, is history. But watching that game, watching them kids go up against basically another Delta, so you can see the drive back in their eyes. You could tell that they felt they could win. You could almost see that they felt that they should have beat Delta and Marion. You could see that life come back into them. And
well, it provided us momentum in two ways. At that time, when we played them, we felt we beat a bigger school, beat a 4A team, that kind of thing. It wouldn't matter what class Mississinawa is. That's the big rivalry game. We know that. But the biggest thing, like you said, was just there was a turning point in the type of effort that in any less of effort on that night would not have been enough to win the game. And the defensive effort was incredible. I mean, we moved the ball a little bit on offense, but defense is what did it. When we get to the end of the season and we're in the tournament and then Mississinawa ends up beating Marion, ends up beating Delta, it kind of gave our guys, look at where we were.
Exactly.
And then so I guess it gave us momentum in two different parts.
Oh, yeah.
In the beginning of the season and also again at the end.
It's fun to beat up on teams like that. Your Madison Grants, and I've said you can go 9-0 every year if you want. That's great. It looks good on your record, winning percentage, and then losing the tournament. But that's not what your program's about.
Yeah,
the real season starts first round of sectional.
It really does, and I think if you want to be the best team, I think you have to play the best teams, and we needed to reach outside our conference a little bit to play some bigger schools, and we try to do that in the summer too when we schedule some scrimmages. But to play them in an actual game is a different thing. So I think that was a really good move for us. It was not fun at the time, but I think it really helped us when we got into the tournament.
Well, we had beaten Delta last year,
correct,
handily, about the same score they beat us, I think.
They beat us a lot worse this year.
Oh, it was okay. Well, I've slept since then.
It definitely felt different, I'll tell you that.
And I don't want to lessen what you do during the season, but when tournament time comes around, when we were talking about intensity earlier, the intensity come tournament time is double. I mean, there's more focus. Not saying what you do during the season is any less, because it's awesome. But as we talked earlier, these guys from year to year, from freshman to senior, they expect to win, because this has been a proven winning.
Well, I know what you're trying to say. You're right. It feels different. I think we coached differently at that time, and I think even if you came out and watched a practice during the regular season and some of them that we have at the tournament, it looks different. I think there's a lot of factors in that. You always get asked, how do you talk about the tournament, without getting guys to look ahead, or that kind of thing. We try to make a big deal out of it. I mean, when the draw happens on that Sunday night, we get together. We meet every Sunday night as a coaching staff, and we always get together earlier that night. We bring in some food. We're drawing up the bracket, and everybody picks, who are we going to play? Who are we going to get in the draw? And kind of make a big deal out of it. And then we bring the guys in on that Monday and we say, look, this is the draw. This is who we have first. This is who we would expect to win coming out of the other brackets. And because they're going to ask you that anyway. So, say it's likely going to be home, away, home, or whatever, if you're going to advance. But we talk about all that, then we always stress these things. The most important thing is you got to play one game at a time. If you don't play well, you're turning your stuff in. And the second thing is you have to prepare differently, because in the tournament, you're more than likely you're having to play some teams that you don't play in the regular season and probably don't even hear a lot about. Our guys know nothing about Andrean or Eastside. They would not have heard about them through the regular season. They don't know what their school colors are. They don't know. They couldn't find the school on a map. So and the internet has changed all of that stuff a lot now, because every one of their games are available. You can get on there and get the newspaper report, so you find out who's their best receiver, who's their number one running back, who are the studs on the team, and you got to know who these guys are. You got to prepare, and then the third thing is you just have to follow the plan. So what I mean by that is, our plan against Eastside was a lot different than what it was against Andrean. Our plan against Eastern was different than what it was against Eastside.
Absolutely.
And so the guys have to be able to adapt to that depending on what kind of team that we're playing. And I think guys have been pretty good at following those three things.
Oh, yeah. Well, I think you just answered my question. What you have established here is a proven winning formula year after year. The stats don't lie.
It was neat to talking about you losing the first two games and overcoming that, and then I had to listen on the radio and watch the game when you was playing up near Fort Wayne. I don't remember what the team's name was in the tournament, but I was listening to the radio announcer. He was a Fort Wayne announcer, and he said, if you've never watched Eastbrook play football, they are performing a school on how to play defense right now. And I just thought that was so neat, just to go from that start of the season to have somebody, say this is a school on how you play defense right here. And you guys were on it too. You was tackling great, and it was just, you was on it.
I think the guys take a lot of pride in being able to, as a coach, you hope every year you get better through the course of the year and you're playing your best at the tournament. And I think this group definitely did that. They wanted to forget about those first two games, but they also wanted to, just keep getting better and try to play as well as they could through the tournament. And especially the younger guys that had a lot of sophomores playing, and those guys definitely improved from where they were at the beginning of the year and played an important role, when we got in the tournament.
Yes, they definitely improved.
There was a couple of kids' names. That's all we heard. We heard their names and said their names all the time. Hale and Dalton.
Yeah.
You heard their names every play almost.
Yeah, Jason came a long way. He's working hard in the weight room already, or actually had been through the fall. Isaiah, I think, just kept getting himself at the right place at the right time. I mean, defensively, I don't know how many turnovers he collected, but that doesn't happen just by being a good player. I mean, Isaiah really paid attention to the scouting report. He understood what their favorite routes were, that kind of thing. And, he was just a big player for us. And he got a lot more touches when we got into the tournament than what he had in the regular season, and made the most of those too. He's going to be a really good player for us.
I want to say did he break the single season record for interceptions?
No.
Did he have 7 or 8?
I've got to look. I know Jacob Singer's got it with, I think he had 8 in the regular season and had either 13 or 14 for a career. I think Isaiah ended with 6. I'm not positive on that. I haven't gone through all those and matched it up with the record book yet. I've been lazy here since we've been done.
What you been doing, dude?
Yeah, I tell you what. I told Liddick last night, we were sitting down there at the end of the gym, and I said, we got this break over Christmas. It's going to be one day where I'm going to sleep in. I'm going to just try to sleep in and catch up. I don't know how tired he is doing both, but.
Was today that day you were supposed to sleep in, and here you sit talking to us?
I got up early. They brought Nora down about 8 o'clock, so I had to get up before she got there.
So if there was, this is changing kind of the subject a little bit here, but if you wasn't a football coach, what would be the one sport that you would want to coach?
I really enjoyed baseball. I coached baseball for a long time at Eastbrook. I think 10 or 12 years. I had to give up something when I started doing the assistant principal, and that's what I ended up giving up. Really enjoyed that, and I really wish I could have coached at some point in there when Nate Brown took over the program, or when Todd Farr was running. I really would have loved to coach alongside those guys. You know, they're two guys that have coached football for us. But I feel the way I feel connected to the football program, I feel that same way with the baseball program, in that spent some time coaching there and playing there. So I tend to, that probably be the sport I'd be enjoyed.
I also think that winning formula that you have has kind of spilled over into other sports. Like we talked about soccer having a good year. Softball has had decent years in recent years. I mean, it's just, I'm not saying that Eastbrook's success is all solely because of you, but it's just amazing to see where you start and you build up a program like that, and it just winning breeds winning.
Yeah, and I want you to think about this within the football staff, extended, okay? You got Harold Coach is a head softball coach. Stu Goebel is a head track coach. Jeff Liddick runs a weight program, and then also is a head girls basketball coach. Pat McLaughlin helps on Friday nights. He's our principal. He's a former head football coach.
Mm-hmm.
So you've got all these guys who have head coaching experience, and the value of that is incredible, because they don't wait to be told or asked to do something. They see something that needs taken care of, and I mean, it could be anything. We've got 3 dummies left on the field. They get it. They see somebody doing something that's not a part of how we do things. It's corrected. You don't have somebody come over, Coach, this guy's not doing this. You know, like telling on somebody. They take care of it right there. And so it's that in itself is incredibly unique within a small school, but they're all phenomenal coaches in their own right, and it's an incredible dynamic to have those kind of people coaching alongside you, because they all have their own unique experiences, coaching experiences, to draw from and bring in on how to either deal with kids or deal with just any kind of situation that you have going on, and they're all good at it.
Well, whatever they're getting paid to coach, it's not enough.
I would agree.
That goes for you too. Well, one last thing before we close out here. Where do you see yourself in 5 years?
On the orange mailbox.
All right.
In Hollywood, maybe.
Well, we'd love
East
to interview
Coast,
you at
West
least
Coast.
3 or 4 more times anyways. I mean, we could sit here and talk all day, but honestly, where do you see yourself in 5 years?
Right here. To say I love Eastbrook is an understatement. I mean, I love the school. I love the people. I love the people that coaching football has allowed me to be associated with and has allowed me to get into contact with. I mean, we've had some incredible players. We've got some incredible coaches. Some of the coaches that I've become friends with at other schools. You know, this is a place where all my kids went. This is where I met my wife. I've got my family here. I hope that I live here long enough I can be buried out at Jefferson Cemetery. And
you start having losing seasons, it'll be sooner than you think.
It'll happen quick. Might be self-inflicted.
Oh my gosh!
I don't deal with that very well. I struggle with that a little bit. I'm not a good loser in any stretch of the imagination. Candy could tell you stories about that.
It's just really neat to see somebody. I personally always enjoy watching somebody that comes into their destiny and fulfills it. And you know they're just running on all cylinders, and they're hot and they're winning and whatever they're doing. And that's rare these days, that somebody comes into this area and is raised in this area and is successful and just like you're just supposed to be here doing what you're doing. It's a pleasure to watch that and to see somebody do that in life, because most people are scattered 30 ways to Sunday and don't know. They couldn't find their hind end with a GPS and 2 maps. And it's just neat to run across somebody that knows where they're going, knows they're supposed to be there, helping other kids find out where they're supposed to go. And it's just a neat thing to watch that. But a couple things I'm going to ask you before we sign off here is, okay, who's going to win the college tournament?
Ooh, I think
you like LSU?
That's the coaches have a poll thing that we do with this, and I think LSU might be the team that is playing the best. It'd be incredibly difficult to not pick a team out of the SEC.
I think so too.
I love what Clemson and Dabo Swinney have been doing, not just what they've been doing, but the way they do it. I mean their practices are structured differently and that kind of thing. But I think LSU's maybe the most talented team and playing the best right now.
You think they'll play Ohio State in the championship?
When I watch these games, Candy always asks, who are you rooting for? 90% of the time I'm watching a college football game or even a pro game. I don't care. I'm just watching from a coach's perspective. But I do have a pull for a Ohio State might be my least favorite Big Ten team, but I still want to see, a Big Ten team do well.
And the Super Bowl, who's going to win the Super Bowl this year?
Oh, jeez, man. Because of the way we have to prepare through the weeks while we're playing, I get to watch very little NFL football unless it is a Monday night or a Thursday night game. So like the Sunday games, I try to pay attention to the Colts, but obviously they're not going to be there this year. Just a plug. You would be surprised at how much the Indianapolis Colts do to promote high school football in the state of Indiana.
It's phenomenal.
It is phenomenal. And they were the first pro football team to reach out to the high school associations and begin a partnership with that like they currently do with the IHSA. It's just phenomenal. The state finals don't happen at Lucas Oil without the Colts.
Exactly.
But they also do, they started doing a clinic I guess it was in the spring, where the Colts coaching staff comes out and they talk everything from player development to, we sat in on their session I went to. I sat in with their quarterback coach. They're showing game film, practice film. It was not a fluff clinic. They're talking football, so neat thing with that. So back to your question, who's really going to win the Super Bowl? You better not say the Patriots or you'll get this. You got some sound effects on there. That's awesome. I'm not a Patriots fan. I'm not a Bill Belichick fan, but I have great admiration for how they're able to consistently be competitive.
Yeah.
It is incredibly unique in pro sports. From what I've seen so far, I really like what the Chiefs are doing. I think they're going to have to be a little bit stronger on defense. But if I had to be pressed for a team, I'd go with Kansas City right now.
I don't know. I like the Ravens myself.
Ravens are tough.
Okay. I could be swayed easily on. I haven't watched a bunch of NFL.
Their quarterback has an awesome name.
Yeah, and there you go. There you go. And they're running some options, so
yeah,
let's go with that.
Any final thoughts?
No, sir.
I love this. I hope you guys have me back.
We are planning on having you back.
Yes, we will.
We can delve on any topic. This is cool.
We've talked for nearly an hour, and we could talk for another 6 for sure.
Let's do. You're getting me out of shopping. Let's talk all day.
Coach, thanks for being here. We appreciate you stopping by.
Yes, thank you.
We are looking forward to having you back.
Hey, it's an honor to be the first guest on the Orange Mailbox.
It's an honor to have you. Thank you very much.
Thanks, guys.
Be sure to follow us on Twitter at MailboxOrange and on Instagram at orange_mailbox. You can also go to our website at www.theorangemailbox.podbean.com and check out all of our episodes. We'd love to hear from you, so if you have any comments or show ideas, drop us an email at feedback@theorangemailbox.com. Thanks for tuning in. We'll catch you next time.